Welcome back to another episode. And today's topic is something I think is really important, but many people either don't think about it, lose sight of it, maybe it's never been brought to them. But I think it's critical when we really think about our long-term success as leaders. And that is the importance of character and it being the foundation, even if it's hidden, but it's the foundation of great leadership. And the reality is a lot of times people get attention, get promotions. We we kind of give them that celebrity status, I'll say, as a leader because of results they produce, and the results are critical, and we'll talk about that as we continue on through this series and in the coming months. Because you have to produce results. If you don't produce results, then that's going to be a problem in your leadership. So don't get me wrong there. However, there are some people that are okay with winning at all costs. And that's not what magnetic leaders do. Magnetic leaders do not have the mindset or the posture of winning at all costs. That it doesn't matter what happens to the people I'm leading, it doesn't matter what happens to who I have to step on or overcome, to be successful. That's we want to win on one level, but we want to win in a way that is character based, not just unethical or dirty. Um, and so magnetic leadership is really about it's driven by character. It's about character. And I think that this is just a really important topic for us to dive into today because those results can be produced without character, but respect is earned with character. Let me say that again. Results can be produced without character, but respect is earned through character. So the question then becomes, what kind of a leader do you want to be? Because the reality is maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking, you know what, Chris, I don't agree with you. I think that I can just win at all costs, and that's how I see the world. And you know what? You can take that posture. It's just not the posture I take. It's not what I believe is best for society. It's not what I believe is best for the marketplace, the business world, for teams, for individuals, for families, for communities. I just don't. But I know that not everybody sees the world the way I do, and I have to be okay with that. So for me, I think character is a critical component, a foundation, the hidden foundation many times of great leadership. So with that being said, and kind of framing things in that way, let's look at some things about how this plays out. What does it mean? How does this look in reality and in practical application? And the first is this, it's having a growth mindset over an image mindset. And what I mean by that is just look at the social media realm. So many people want to look good. They want to have a certain image that they're so afraid of being seen differently that they won't put themselves out there even if they fail. And this brings on a perfectionism tendency or masking reality. So here's the thing, authenticity is really important in our culture and in our society and your leadership, but so many people want to pretend to be authentically perfect. And that's just not reality. Authenticity says, you know what? Hey, I'm good at some things and I'm bad at others. I'm new at this. I've been experiencing this, whatever it may be. So as leaders, being authentic and saying, you know what? I've been successful in certain areas and in certain ways up till now, but I have areas to grow in. And I'm not going to try to put on this image in front of people that I have it all together. The thing that's given me the most favor, I'll say, with the people I've led over the last 30 years has been authenticity of saying, look, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Let's figure that out together, or I'm going to go back and try to figure some things out. I am a work in progress. And by carrying myself with that posture, it changes the game. It changes the dynamic with so many people because then people can trust you. So character is about being truthful in that and saying, look, I have areas to grow in. I look back at the last decade of my journey and I can't imagine or I couldn't imagine, let me say it that way, back then, 10 years ago, what I would have to grow into over this past 10 years. But that also tells me that I'm going to have to grow into some different things in the next 10 years, right? The things that I can't imagine what's coming over the next decade right now. but I'll be able to look back 10 years from now and say, wow, look at how far you've come because you kept taking growth steps week by week, month by month, year by year. See, growth compounds. And when we learn something and we start to apply it, and then we learn something new and we start to apply that, then it starts to stack up. I've just been reading some great books by Scott Adams recently, who was the creator of the Dilbert comic strip. And one of the things he talked about years ago, I never heard him as the kind of the key idea generator of this, but now that I'm reading his books, I realize that people have built on, sometimes maybe stolen his concept. But it's this idea of talent stacking. Talent stacking. It's layering one talent on top of another, on top of another, on top of another until or as you go, you keep getting better. So if we look at that in a long-term perspective, we're never going to get to the end, right? We're never going to be perfect or have arrived at perfection in this, that we're always a work in progress. And I remember years ago, even back in my 20s, I remember saying to people, I hope to someday be the wise old sage, the wise old man someday when I'm in my 80s and 90s that I can give back to people, but also be the one who keeps growing. And that is so true still. I haven't changed my opinion of that. I've actually probably strengthened my opinion of that over the last couple of decades. I want to be continually growing. We have all these new technologies that are being thrown our way all the time. We have new things that are just constantly there to potentially trip us up unless we learn how to handle them. And technology is certainly one of those. How to handle social media, how to live in an online world, all these things on top of just basic skills of communicating and leadership, tactical things, strategy, organization, all the things that fall under the leadership umbrella. But the reality is that if we keep growing, we're going to be better and better and better over time. And that's what it means to me of having this growth mindset over an image mindset. Like I'm not trying to put out this image that I have it all together because I don't. I want to be real and authentic on this show. I want to share with you my journey. I want to share with you the things I'm learning. Each book that I read, each person I listen to in a meeting, each podcast I listen to, or video I watch, or whatever the case may be, I'm always looking for how can I grow? How can I apply what they're saying? Does it fit in my path or does it not? And I think that when we have the right perspective on this, it just changes the game for us. So don't try to just grow in your position and title in your organization or your business. Think about how can I grow in my skills? How can I grow in my character? How can I grow in how I treat people? How can I grow in my leadership overall? Versus I'm going to project this image that isn't real. And here's the thing, everybody sees through the images. Right? We know intuitively that when we see somebody's perfect image on social media, that they really don't have it all together. Now, we may not act like that. We might think they have it all together in the sense of how we view them, but deep in our heart, we know that person, even if they look really good in this scenario, they have other issues, right? Um, think about pro athletes as an example, or Hollywood celebrities. They can be really good athletes or really good actors and actresses, really good producers, really good coaches. But then we see that they have off the field or off the screen troubles and struggles. Their relationships are a mess. They're getting in trouble with the law, whatever the case may be. We realize that they're really good in their specific craft of their professional career, but when they step away from that, they're just a regular human being who has struggles and problems of their own. And that's not even me, judging those people for those things. We all make mistakes. We all have our own issues to deal with. But that's why character matters so much. If I can continue to sharpen my character and strengthen it so that I don't make as many mistakes, that I don't offend people, that I don't criticize, that I don't do things that are going to create a gap between the person I want to engage with and where I am, right? Like, how do we close that gap? Well, I think we close that gap through character. It's through building relationships. It's through demonstrating that we care about people. It's through creating trust and reliability because we're consistent in our character. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing is that character is actually a retention strategy when it comes to our leadership because when you demonstrate consistent high character, and people value that. They want to stay with a leader like that. Other opportunities will come their way. Some people still may leave, but many people will say, you know what, I have other opportunities, or I could go somewhere else, but I can't guarantee that the leader I'm going to be working with is going to be like this leader that I'm following right now. And I like the situation I'm in. The culture is healthy, it's good, it's strong. And that's what high character leaders do. You build strong, healthy cultures that people want to stay in. The options are endless in our world today. The job market is wide open, right? Everybody's a free agent. You are, I am, employees are, everybody's a free agent in our world today. And that's great on one level. But if you're trying to have a sticky strategy of keeping people on your team and retaining them long term so that they can help you build something of value, then developing your character, protecting your character, strengthening your character continually, demonstrating that character day by day, moment by moment is just critical. And I'm not saying once again that you have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to say things in meetings or in a conversation that you're going to apologize for or that you're going to correct later. But here's the thing. The fact that you're willing to apologize, the fact that you're willing to fix it tells people that you're a person of character. Whereas other leaders might say, you know what, take me or leave me. This is who I am. I don't care what your opinion is of me. I mean, there's plenty of people out in the world like that. I know some good people, honestly, in general, but they have that attitude and it basically turns people off. So I really want to encourage you to think about how are you demonstrating your character on a day-to-day basis so that you can build a culture that people truly want to engage in long term. It's so expensive to find and replace and train new employees. But if you can invest in the ones you have, if you can build trust with the ones you have, it helps things go so much farther and faster. That's why Stephen M. R. Covey wrote the book The Speed of Trust, and he talks about the greater the trust, the faster you can go, the farther you could go. Because if people trust you, then you can get things done quickly. When you have to keep finding new people and retraining and starting over relationally and all the things that come with turnover, that slows things down. It bogs things down. Even in an organization with a great vision, with great purpose and mission, doing great things for customers and clients, it still slows things down because people have to get caught up to speed and trust has to be built. And trust is built through character development being a foundational focus of a leader. So are you continually developing your character, not just for the sake of being a good person and a good leader as a human being, not just even for caring for the individuals, but for building a culture that people want to be a part of? And simultaneously, and my third point I want to share with you on this is having character to do what's right, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Taking the stand, saying the hard things. Years ago, I was at a conference. I remember a speaker talking about saying the last 10%. And his point was, he said, as leaders, a lot of times we'll say 90% of what we need to say to somebody, but it's that last 10% that can really make a big difference in the relationship and in the organization. But so many people are afraid of saying the last 10% because we're afraid we're going to offend. We're afraid somebody's going to get upset, whatever the case may be. But having the courage to say the last 10% is a character issue. If I give you 90% of the truth, have I really given you all the truth? No, no. I've given you most, but I'm not being fully honest with you. And that's going to erode trust because then you might doubt later down the road, well, did Chris tell me everything that he really needed to say or wanted to say, or is he holding back on me? You see, those lingering questions, even if they seem small at the time, those lingering questions can create doubt and they can create fear in an organization and a team. They can create distrust. So doing what's right, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, actually builds your credibility and strengthens your character in ways you just can't imagine. Years ago, I was working a part-time job when I was first starting my business at a hotel, and the manager I was working with, he wanted me specifically to tell a um, one of our customers that was staying at the hotel, he wanted me to lie to them about a problem in their room. And I literally turned to him and said, look, you can tell them what you want to tell them. But if you want me to lie for you, I'll give you my name badge. I'll turn in everything right now and I'm out of here because I'm not lying. I'm not lying for you. Let's just tell them the truth. We messed up. We had a problem to solve. Let's just tell them the truth. And I was ready to walk away that day, that moment, because I wasn't going to compromise my character of who I want to be and who I am for the sake of his comfort in that moment, which ultimately would have been found out and discovered, and the hotel guest would have figured it out, right? So it would have backfired anyway. But I took a stand in that moment, and I didn't know how that would play long term with him. I didn't honestly care, because for me, at that point in my life, I was old enough and mature enough to know that, I could find another place to work if I needed to. I could do something else, but I wasn't going to compromise my character. What's interesting about that story, and the reason I'm even telling you that, is not so that you can pat me on the back, but I think it was a couple weeks later, he was leaving for the day, and he was walking out the door, and he turned around, he came back, he said, "You know what?" He said, "When I asked you to lie about that to that hotel guest a couple weeks ago," he's like, "You know what? It really made me pause. I went home and I really thought about how I want to be a certain way in my life and be honest and truthful, and yet in that moment, I wasn't." So he said my professional, my personal life wasn't aligned, essentially is what he was saying. And he said, "I just want to thank you for standing up to me on that because it really made me think about who I want to be." See, I didn't take a stand for that lesson or that moment to happen 2 weeks later, but I took a stand because it was who I want to be. It's who I am. I want to be truthful and honest, and anything outside of that, I want, is misalignment for me. For him, he wanted that too, but he was segmenting his life between professional and personal. He had this wall built up, and he didn't even realize it until that moment. And through self-reflection, and kudos to him, giving him credit for this, he realized that was a gap in his life and in his career. And you know what? Honestly, I respected him so much more because he came back to me and said that. He didn't have to say that. He could have had that epiphany on his own and never said a word to me. But he chose to tell me, "Hey, I just want you to know that situation created a pause in my life to really think and reflect on who I am, who I want to be, what kind of a leader I want to be." And it really caught me off guard of an area that I need to work on. I didn't need the thanks. I didn't ask for that necessarily, but it was a great reminder. And that's, all these years later, that's 10 years ago now that happened. And that's a lesson I'll never forget. And I share that story occasionally to people because the reality is our character in our personal life and our character in our work life, they need to truly match up if you're going to be a magnetic leader that truly attracts, inspires, retains the kind of people you want on your team, the kind of customers and clients you want to your organization. So are you aligned in your character? Is character development, character protection part of your leadership strategy and growth? Or is it something that you really don't think of and it's happening accidentally? See, this is an intentional behavior you have to be doing. You have to intentionally keep in mind your character and strengthen it. And once again, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I know any perfect leaders. But what I do know is that there are a lot of leaders who I respect, who I look up to and say, you know what, they're not perfect, but I know they're a work in progress, and I know that they work really hard to protect their character and to be who they say they are, who they project an image, that's authentic, that really is them versus, like I said, that image management that is often done online. See, politicians get in trouble all the time about this, right? Senior leaders, public leaders get in trouble with this all the time because they're trying to manage an image without intentionally managing and developing their character. If you develop your character, you don't have to worry about your image. Think about that. If you developed your character, you don't have to worry about your image. I love the statement that uh, Rory and AJ Vaden they talk about in their book Wealthy and Well Known. They say that a personal brand is really your reputation, and whether it's a corporate brand or a personal brand as a person, as a leader, even that is really what do people think of when they think about you? What are the images that come to mind when they hear your name, when they see you show up on LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram, wherever? What happens if you show up in the newspaper and there's a story about you or your company? What do people think about when they think about you? And maybe the bigger question is, what do you want them to think about when they think about you? You see, if we drive down the highway and we see billboards all the time, right? And if I see a Coca-Cola logo or an Apple logo or a Microsoft logo or whatever the brand is, as soon as we see that image, we have certain feelings, right? So I'm a Coke drinker, not a Pepsi drinker. I have a bias. I admit that. I've been a Coke guy all my life. So when I see a Coke logo, I have good feelings. When I see a Pepsi logo, I think, oh, that's gross. I don't like it. And the reality is, they're pretty much the same product, right? But branding wise, for some reason throughout my life, I have gone to Team Coke, not Team Pepsi. And there's plenty of people out there that do the opposite, right? Some people it's Mountain Dew, some people it's, restaurants, it's everything, right? It's the type of clothes we wear, it's the restaurants we go to, it's the cars we drive, it's everything. So what do people think about when they think about you as your brand? When they see your picture, when they see your name pop up, when somebody mentions you, what is the impression? What are the images? What are the ideas, the thoughts that people have when they think about you? That is your reputation. That is your personal brand as a leader. So this is all about character. And we have the ability to control the development of our character. We may not control everything that people think about us, but we can control what we're doing in order to build our character so that we can be a trusted, worthy leader. Your character will be revealed eventually. When the pressure's on, our genuine character comes out. That's often when we had to apologize the most, to be honest, right? Is that when we're stressed, when we're feeling up like our back's against the wall, when we're up against the challenge, we can act out of character, it seems like. But really what happens is our true character is being tested in that moment, and our true character comes out. And I really believe that when you can build strong character and make character a priority when the tests come, and they will, the challenges come and they will, the obstacles you face hit you, what is your character going to reveal in that moment? So you can manage your image in the easy times pretty easily. But when things are tough, especially when they're tough, when they're hard, your true character is going to come out. That's when you can either build trust or your trust starts to disintegrate. So, kind of wrapping things up, if you are thinking, Chris, hey, I'm not even sure where to begin with this or what my next step should be, or I want to really make sure my team is really working on developing their own character so they can be leaders worth following and can truly attract and inspire and retain people to our organization. Then go to McClureCoaching.com and click the apply for a free call button on my website. I'd love to schedule a time to chat with you about how I can help you. And that could be through one-on-one coaching, that could be through group programs for your team, that could be through workshops, some courses I have, whatever it may be. But I want to be able to be a resource to you and your team so that when people think about you and people think about your organization, your team, they have these really positive thoughts and they want to work with you. They want to be a part of that team, and maybe as an employee, but also they want to work with your organization as a customer or client. I know this may be deep, may be challenging today, but I really encourage you to spend some time thinking about what are you doing to build, strengthen, and protect your character? What are you doing to help do the same for your followers? Are you helping them do that for themselves? And if not, let's get together and let's talk about putting together a plan of what that looks like because the reality is your intentional planning can make all the difference in the world. Take care. God bless. And we will see you next time.